All right, good evening, guys. Welcome to Mark Anthony's Music Picks, episode 66. Today, I want to talk about an artist that I've had a ton of respect for ever since I started listening to his music back in the day, and that is Trentemoller. Trentemoller is one of the most interesting musicians that you'll ever come across. If you look at his catalog and the type of music that he makes, he is so widely spread across the spectrum. It just goes to show how talented he is. He's able to make electro tracks, dub techno tracks, IDM, glitch, rock. Shoegaze. All of these different types of tracks to where he's so diversified that it almost becomes difficult to pinpoint the genre of any of his tracks because they have such a melding and such a mixture of elements going on in them. I've always respected him. I always pictured him as this like musical genius, like a musical madman that's just like got so many ideas in his head and you know, almost like not enough time to get them all out because he's just so intense and into music. On top of that, he's also a vinyl head. I've watched a couple interviews of him where he talks about some of the vinyls that he's trying to track down in the marketplace. And the music that he listens to is pretty eccentric stuff. I mean, they interviewed him and asked him like, what are some of his most desirable records? And he was pulling some really obscure stuff from overseas that had nothing to do with the club scene at all, which I guess really shouldn't surprise me. I think he's just as much influenced by like something like classical music as he is by the club scene. And I would say he's definitely less influenced by the club scene now than he was when he first started his career. So I'm gonna take you through some of my top five Trentemoller picks that I've found over the years, and you'll see that most of these I think are confined to the period of 2003 to about maybe 2008. I think it is the end of it, because after 2008 he went off and he made his own label. I think it's called In My Room or In My Own Room or In My Room, right? And he's been releasing albums on that, but they're not really the type of music that I really get into. So I'm gonna focus more on the early part of his career where he was doing these club oriented tracks, because those are the ones that, you know, I have the most affinity for. The first one that I want to review for you is really special, and it's special not only because it's good, but because of the type of music that it is. So this is the Trentemoller EP. It came out in 2003, and it's his first release ever, and he crushed it. He totally hit a home run. And not only that, but he did it with a West Coast flavored deep house track. It's soft, it's breezy, it's all daytime, and it's got the very obvious like Joey Youngman, Mark Farina, just West Coast San Fran written all over it. The synth is kind of that buzzy, squealy one that like Dr. Dre would use on the Chronic album. It's just all West Coast, and it's so weird because this is the only record that Trentemoller released that sounds like this. It's literally the only one. There's two tracks on it. The one that I like the most is Le Champagne, Le Champagne, and the other one on the B side is similar style, but it's called In Progress. And I would give the B side like a 4 or 4.5 stars, and the A side a 5. But I played this in sets, and this really goes down well. I mean, you want to talk about timeless deep house music, total home run, like I said, and I really can't recommend this enough. If you go and look on Discogs, you see a couple thousand people own this. It's because it's that good. Then moving up to 2004, Trentemoller started to break into more of like his electro sound, which I think is really what the club goers and the DJs know him for, is that electro sound. There's a track on the A side called Beta Boy, which has, I would say, progressive house but mostly electro influences, and it's kind of fun. I remember Sasha was rocking this back in the day. In like 2005, I remember seeing a video of Sasha playing Beta Boy at like a big show, and it definitely sounded wicked. But I bought it for Beta Boy, I'll admit that. But on the Forest, on the B side, is really where your mind will get blown, on this release, because the Forest, getting back to that concept of Trentemoller's music not being like able to be pigeonholed, I can't tell you what genre this thing is. It's glitchy, it's breakbeat, it's got even a little bit of dub techno influence if you listen closely. It's got some deep house softness to it. It's just this total melting pot of sounds that just comes together beautifully. I did notice in the reviews that somebody said that they play this in their deep house sets. I didn't really check the tempo on it, but I guess I'll take their word for it. I'm going to experiment and see if I can mix this into one of my house sets, because I do love the track. I've always just kind of been afraid to play it because I wasn't sure where to put it in a set. But from the perspective of just sitting down and listening to a beautiful composition that's just like music and you can't really like throw it into a category, the Forest is all win, man. And now moving up to 2006, obvious pick, right? His most famous album ever is The Last Resort. And I love the cover art on here. I love how the colors are sort of like inversed or inverted on this tree here, like, I don't know, like it was taken over by ghostly ants or moths or something. It's just really, really wicked cover art. And it kind of is reflective of the album. The album's very dark, it's dreary, and I love it for that. I love dark, dreary music. That's my jam. There's so many tracks to pick from on here, but I'm going to pick my personal favorite to present to you guys because it's just one that, like, when I play this often, by the way, just for home listening, but the track that I always throw on first is Evil Dub. And Evil Dub is fundamentally a dub techno track. It also kind of sounds, it would be like if you mix dub techno with Spangle. Like if you've ever gone to see a show in Las Vegas where those crazy Cirque du Soleil shows, right? They'll put a percussionist up in like the balcony and just have him play like weird, crazy, like disturbing almost percussion. And I feel like that's kind of what you're getting here with Evil Dub. On top of that, probably the sickest part of Evil Dub is when it fades into the breakdown and that guitar just comes in and it's like boom, boom, right? And it's just like hitting, and there's just something about it that's just like, oh man, that's good. And then the beat just comes rolling in, but the beat has no urgency. It's just like slow and just hypnotic and rolling. And that's where, to me, it kind of reminds me of those Spangle beats where they're like slow, they're like 100 or 100, 110 or 112, you know, and it's more like heady and for the stoners, that kind of a thing. The rest of the album, besides Evil Dub, is crazy good. And if you look on Discogs, there's probably 10,000 people that own this, and it's because of it's like his magnum opus, I think would be the word for it. His crowning achievement. And next up, I think this came out in '06. Let me spot check that. Yeah, this came out in '06. This is a Trentemoller remix that was really popular for a while. The artist is Juma Sound System. There's like a silent D in there. It's like Juma Sound System, and the track is called Les Djinns, or I don't know. It's French. I'm probably butchering that, and I'll give you guys the track title down below. But yeah, it's got the Trentemoller remix, and this one was really interesting because again, here comes Trentemoller with the eclectic sound where you can't really kind of pinpoint it. I would say it's mostly Balearic sound, maybe with a little bit of a house or tech house tinge. Actually, no, not even tech house. Maybe house elements. I don't know. It's got like some bit of a broken beat. And to me, I think it is either like you play it early in your set when it's really like chill and mellow, or right at the end, like a closing track. And speaking of having this be a closing track, when I went to see Steve Lawler back in 2006, I saw him at this venue that was really, really awesome back in the day. It was called Crowbar in New York. I saw Lawler there, and I ended up on stage at the end of the night for the closing, which I think was around like 6:30 in the morning, and he ended his set with this guy, and everybody in the room kind of reacted to it. Most people knew it. It was getting played in DJ sets, and it was on mixed compilations and such, and it was just a really high quality moment that I'll definitely remember. And my last pick for you out of Trentemoller's catalog that is worth checking out is this one here. This is called Rauta or Ralta. and there's a boys mix and a girls mix. I like the girls mix. There's two versions of this release. You can get the one on Echo Chord Denmark, which has the boys and the girls, like on the A and B. And this is a Steve Bug, the Lab sampler that also happened to have the track, and that's just the one that I ended up acquiring out of the marketplace for the girls mix. But very interesting release because you've got a fundamentally dub techno track that is mixed with Trentemoller's classic electro sound. Like, I feel like if what he makes best in the club, or what he made best out of anything in the club music scene, was electro. Like, that was what he was really like known for. So here you have him fusing electro and dub techno, and I think it just turned out to be a really interesting mishmash of that. So that's why I wanted to include this in the episode as well. And that's all for tonight. To Mr. Trentemoller, thank you so much for all the awesome beats. I love it. I got to see Trentemoller in concert in Philadelphia. He came back in like 2007 or 2008, and it was really special to see him play with a band and see like all these musicians around him just bringing all this music to life. So if you ever get the chance to go see him live, I highly recommend it. It wasn't a club set by any means. It was probably around 100 or 110 beats per minute for the entire night, but they programmed the night so that it kind of had like this gentle kind of takeoff to it. And by the time we got 3 hours in, I was really dancing and rocking out. So I highly recommend him. He's really talented. Go check him out. That's all for tonight. Take care, guys. Peace.